Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra book club. I am joined today, as always. Hold on. Oh, I forgot to mute the other thing. Okay, so I'm joined today, as always, with my husband, John, aka BookTube Hubby, and book club VIP, Tom Brennan. Say hi, Tom.
Hello.
So, this month, we have decided to read Challenger Deep by Neal Shusterman. And it's got, what kind of award? It's got it was a National Book Award winner. So I actually heard about Neal Shusterman through my son, who doesn't like to read at all. And one day he came home and he was like, oh, there's an author coming to my school. And I was like, oh yeah, what did he write? And so he started describing this book to me, which was not Challenger Deep. He was like, oh, abortion has been outlawed, and so they don't do that. And when kids grow up, if they do bad things, there's a chance for them to be unwound and taken apart. So it was like not abortion, but they were able to be like, they're just taken apart for doing like.
So what, are they given the chance to live, but if they seem unworthy, then
they get unwound. Yeah, whatever. Unwound. So when he was describing it to me, it sounded really, really crazy. And as a YA novel, I was like, really? That's something that they would write for teenagers? That seems so scary. But it got me interested in finding out more about Neal Shusterman and stuff like that. And I picked up Challenger Deep because I was making a book outlet purchase, and it was on there for very cheap, and I recognized Neal Shusterman, so I was like, oh, let me check it out.
So you bought Challenger Deep before it was brought up at the Y'all Fest panel? Okay.
Yes, but because it was brought up on the Y'all Fest panel, we did see the author, Neal Shusterman, talking about it and how he kind of worked together with his son to write it and to present a story that was reflective of his son's experience with schizophrenia. I found the whole panel to be very intriguing, and I was like, oh, let me add that. I have the book. Let me add it to the book club thing, and that's what we settled on. So we can do like just initial thoughts, and then I will give you guys the warning, because after that it will be all spoilers. So
before we get into the initial thoughts, I'm going to read the quote on the front of the book, and because it sums it up pretty nicely. It's a brilliant journey across the dark sea of the mind, frightening, sensitive, and powerful, simply extraordinary.
Oh, I'm not sure, but I think I saw your rating, so I think you really liked it.
The ratings are too early. What are you talking about?
I'm not asking for your rating. I'm just saying I believe I saw you put it on Goodreads.
I thoroughly enjoyed the book. So again, it's quite imaginative, and it kind of gives you a view into what someone with mental instabilities could go through, and it's, for lack of a better term, crazy, and it's awesome. It's awesomely crazy, actually. I actually, it's going into books, movies, video games, and the stories that can be created. It's kind of gave me an eye opening into where some of these stories come from, and you're like, what? How do these people think of these things? And it's those that are kind of like delving like a little bit more into intelligence and a little bit past to some of the imaginative.
I know you had concerns in regards to how I was going to feel.
Oh, it gave me anxiety reading the book. So yes, did you experience the same thing?
I mean, there were parts of it where I could super relate to some of the things that he was saying, and I guess I'll dive deeper into that later. But for me, it just brings up all the questions of how creativity and insanity are somewhat linked, and just that the most creative people are able to think outside of the box, and sometimes that box is what others consider reality.
Sometimes that box is a pirate ship.
And so at first I was kind of like, I wasn't loving all the pirate on the ship stuff, and it kept going back and forth between that. But then like the lines started becoming clearer in regards to what was what, I guess.
I absolutely enjoyed that, actually. Because going into it, you're a little confused, and you're like, well, I don't understand what's going on yet. And then when like literally two worlds become one, you're like, oh, okay.
I mean, but that is obviously a very clear picture of his experience and what he was going through and his own journey. So, that was like masterfully done, I think. Tom, your thoughts? Initial thoughts? Just initial thoughts.
Spoiler free, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of what I was going to say has already been said, in the sense that he conveys a deeply personal experience in an innovative way. But one of the joys of them now was, how do those two worlds connect? Like when he talks about something in the pirate ship, and how does that bridge into the real world? I think also too, a lot of times with mental illness, we should just do this and then it'll be all right. It's like, well, no, you don't understand. It's not changing your way of thinking. It's changing who you are based on your brain chemistry. This is why the cocktail is so important. So, without giving too much away.
Yeah. So I guess at this point we could probably just jump into the nitty-gritty of the story and
spoilers,
the spoilers. So if you
spoilers,
playing too much HQ.
So if you haven't read Challenger Deep and you do like Neal Shusterman, or you've never heard of Neal Shusterman, definitely recommend picking it up. Just know it was a very personal story in regards to mental illness and how it touched his family and his son and stuff like that. So,
but if you want to avoid spoilers, stop now. Come back later.
Go read it. Come back. So I'm not even sure what I want to say. I think so. Okay, so there's some things that happen to me sometimes, especially because I'm a lucid dreamer. So I feel like I have very, very active dreams, and they're just very, very vivid. And I know sometimes I can't tell the difference. Like sometimes I'll dream something and I really can't remember or distinguish whether it was a dream or reality.
Okay.
Sometimes she wakes up mad at me for stupid things. And I'm like, I'm sleeping. What did I do?
There are other times where I can't remember if something has been said out loud. Like I can't distinguish what the voice in my head said versus whether I said something out loud, or and that's further muddled because I know ever since we got together, we have had these very telepathic experiences.
Like the other would know what the other one's saying before they finish the sentence, or bringing something that someone just thought about. It's kind of, I know it's not hard to explain, but it's hard to explain.
So after reading Patient HM, where they were kind of talking about people with homosexual tendencies were considered insane, and they lobotomized them. And, obviously that was a world where people just didn't understand what was happening and what was going on. I can't help but think of that here also. Like, other people that don't experience hearing voices or seeing things that way, isn't it kind of really easy to just be like, well, there's something wrong with you. We have to medicate this. We have to. I guess in my mind, I'm just like, but what if something else is going on that we're just not aware of?
Right.
And that's the part that gives me anxiety. Like if you watch like 12 Monkeys, I think there's like a quote in there where he's like, there's no such thing as right or wrong. It's just majority rules.
Yeah.
And so like that has always just given me anxiety, made me very nervous. So I don't know, because you just like creativity and thinking outside the box and thinking differently and looking at the world differently. And the more you do that, the more people are like, no, there's something wrong with you. So I don't know. Obviously, if it impacts your life and stuff like that, then you should definitely seek help and you're going to get whatever help is most available right now. But that's still just something that I think about a lot, I guess. You didn't get to see the drawings. Tom, did you?
Oh.
Yeah, they had drawings in the book.
Yeah, John listened to the audiobook, so he never actually got to see the drawings.
They're throughout.
Yeah, they're throughout the whole thing. Did either of you get to watch the interview that I posted on Goodreads?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that happened.
Because the author and his son were both being interviewed, and they were talking about why the book was called Challenger Deep, and which
These
I
are
can't
very
remember enough to
interesting
express
because
it.
they're all up for interpretation, really. Like all the drawings are a little more abstract.
They also wanted to make very clear that this was not necessarily like a one-to-one translation of his son's experience, that it was just...
Well, it is a novel after all. It's not a biographical or memoir or anything.
Right. There's similarities, but Caden is not Brandon. What did you think about him being on a ship? Like, as far as that...
You're asking me or Tom?
You both.
Just looking at you.
Yeah, I know. But I was like, and include Tom in this conversation.
Oh.
What do you mean? How did I feel about that?
The way that picture was painted, the way that they used like that to represent his experience.
I'm almost certain that there's a number of things the number of threads that I didn't tie together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not completely sure I knew exactly what the ship really meant, because at one point, it changes from wood to copper. And that was supposed to signify something that I didn't understand. So, but the...
that was in the context of Caden saying that they weren't modernized enough to go down to the trench. Because they had to have that diving bell.
So that was his mind's attempt at modernizing a little bit?
Well, his mind changed the game a bit in the sense that now everything is copper as opposed to wood. Because he had said when they were proposing doing the dive into the Marianas Trench that... I said, well, you can't do that because you don't have any, you don't have a diving bell, you don't have, your ship's made of wood, and so when he has another one of his episodes, all of a sudden everything's now is copper.
Right. I mean, I don't know if I have feelings on it. I like the idea that it is a ship, that it's signifies a journey. It signifies a like some sort of trek or adventure that you're going on in order to get to what is supposed to be the final destination, or something what his final test would be.
Take control of.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that he was given the helm at some point means he was given control at some point. And I really think that had to do with a lot of the different events along the way, and maybe even a little bit of the cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of people he got to know at the hospital. I think he said that he was there for like 9 weeks.
And who people the ship that he instructed. Said. Like the parrot being the doctor, the psychologist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do they spell Poirot? Because that's is it very close to parrot?
Poirot.
Oh, yeah, like the detective.
Yeah, Poiro or E.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Poirot, yes. And who was it? The navigator, and being with that kid, that he roomed with.
Yep. Hal? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yep. And and the guy who ran the support group that they had. I can't remember his name offhand.
Carlisle,
yes. So
they never actually said what happened to Hal, right? He never
nobody actually ever gave him a final answer whether or not he succeeded in his suicide attempt. But
right. The implication is that he was, but we don't know that.
I'm not even sure what direction to take the conversation in. There's just so many things. There was a lot of pop culture references. Some I felt were a little old, like coming from the mind of an older person.
Pop culture is still pop culture.
Well,
Doesn't matter how old it is, whether or not it's popular now or
right.
then.
But I'm saying if you're writing a book for a younger audience now, they're not going to relate to things that happened.
Well,
really
unless they're
long time
actually
ago.
curious to actually go look that information up.
But they would have to identify it as a pop culture reference.
This is true.
Like, and maybe I'm making the wrong reference, but I know at one point the parrot was saying something about a horse, and he said, "Of course, of course." And so wasn't that a Mr. Ed reference?
I mean, I took it as that.
Okay, that's what I
think,
identified.
yes.
Yeah, so I can't imagine audiences now would know about Mr. Ed.
And I probably wouldn't have recognized it outside of the fact that it was read to me. If I read it in a book, I probably wouldn't have seen, right. It's a horse, of course.
Right.
Because the spoken aloud is different than, because what's the word I'm looking for? How fast you speak it has a lot to do with, recognizing
And then
it.
there were a couple like that. Like, there was a Peanuts reference.
Yep.
Which I think is funny because I've used that reference a lot when I just hear things happening in the background. It just sounds like...
Yes, ma'am.
But so there was like a lot of references like that I felt like was from an older generation, obviously coming out of Neal's mind versus, maybe the GLaDOS.
I was happy about that one. I was like, there's a Portal reference.
But
yeah, but consider that context of Portal in relation to the novel, though, which I thought was interesting.
It was. There was more meaning to that than just
premise.
Yeah.
I maybe might be missing what you're saying.
About Portal?
Yes.
Have you played the game?
I mean, I understand the concept of the game. I haven't really played it.
So no, you haven't.
That's why she doesn't understand. Would you mind explaining? Because I don't know if I can do it so eloquently.
I don't know if I can do it just because it's been a long time since I've done both. But basically, GLaDOS is the computer that tries to basically terminate the subject of the experiment that they were running, and it's the subject's job to get out. I can't remember what the subject's name is.
Shell.
Yeah, and it's like, want you gone.
It's like
and
a short
version. The Jonathan Colton songs. That's what they're referencing. It's GLaDOS singing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the idea is because GLaDOS was the conductor of the. Who did he call that? Who did he call GLaDOS?
She was the Gladys, the woman that replaced Carlisle.
Okay,
yeah.
So he ended up giving her an evil connotation to the director of the support group. So the support group is, was supposed to be helping and raise people up, but he gave her the idea that she was there to ruin people or to bring them back down. I don't know. I think it was just a matter of him not liking Carlisle being replaced, period, and just gave her an evil name.
Well, I think it was funny that they all chimed in and they were just making game-related references that she wasn't picking up on.
Yeah.
Which, even if she wasn't picking up on it, I still feel like somebody would tell, hey, there's something else going on here. So she was probably uncomfortably feeling a little like, are they saying something? Are they speaking in code? Yes.
Well, that's the reverse of the pop culture reference you were talking about before. These are two new references for GLaDOS to appreciate. She wouldn't get the grain reference.
She has to go look it up now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can Urban Dictionary that later. But,
so the character Caden is 15 when he goes in, he's hospitalized, and I kind of felt like, as you know, they started improving his cocktail, or even maybe somewhat before, he was just very self-aware and very deep and very intelligent, and like just a lot more self-aware than some of the other people that were in there with him. Hal was kind of deep too, though. But
you say Hal is kind of deep, and I just opened this book to a which Hal says, "Your mother's an asshat."
There you have it.
I was actually looking for Calliope's name so I could see how it was spelled for Callie.
Callie.
Yeah.
Well, I know how Calliope is spelled. Did they spell it the same way?
No, they spelled it the same way.
Oh,
they
okay.
pronounced it.
Yeah, but he pronounced it different ways every time he said the damn name in the audio book.
No, I see that. Well, when they said it the right way, it was on the ship. But when they said it the other way, it was referring to her counterpart.
Well, okay, I didn't pick that up then.
Yeah.
Add me.
But I guess he's just seemed a lot more mature than his age, I think, especially struggling with all the things he was struggling with.
I'd imagine that it kind of would actually take that kind of intelligence to have that. Like the brain has to develop to a certain point to end up with these issues, doesn't it?
I mean, not necessarily. I don't think so. Because I don't even think like self-awareness is necessarily an age.
It's not about
thing.
self-awareness. It's about it's being able to imagine and understand that certain things in reality work a specific way to imagine a different reality.
I guess what I'm thinking of is how he dealt with Sky and how he dealt with what was that other girl's name? Her name started with an A, I think.
Which?
The girl that slit her throat.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't remember her name.
You can't remember her name either? Do you not remember that at all?
When did that happen?
He was like, so there was a girl that tried to hurt herself, or that's why she ended up in there. Or did somebody else do that to her? I think something happened to her. Somebody did something to her, and she was kind of reliving it over and over and over inside of their group sessions.
Right, every time she brought it up.
Right.
Right.
And so, as he was starting to respond better to the medications, he was having more and more clarity, and he was able to be more and more verbal. That
was kind of the first he showed signs of coming back out.
It was a little bit after the first, but like he not only realized, hey, I've heard this story a million times, but he also wanted to try to make it clear to her that she was allowing herself to be a victim, and as long as she kept reliving that episode, that she wasn't going to be able to move on or move past it. And so while he didn't do it in the nicest of ways, he tried to use like comedy to be expressive.
I don't know where that happened, so.
But I don't know. I think it's really easy to be like, this is so annoying. I've heard this so many times. Can she just stop? But it was more than that. It was the acknowledgement that, hey, you're still hurting yourself. If you continue to do this, you have to find a way to like move on. So, and not just that, but then also when he was sitting with Sky was talking bad about Callie. And so he recognized that. And then, he tried to be a mirror for Sky, because Sky was like, oh, she's crazy because she thinks that when she's not out in the real world, it disappears or something like that. And he was like, well, she doesn't believe that. she's just worried it disappears. It's a fear. It's not something she actually believes. There's a difference. And so he was trying to explain that to her. She was like, well, it's still dumb. It's still weird. And while he's like trying to defend Callie, he sees that she keeps tapping her nose. And he was like, well, what are you afraid of will happen if you stop tapping your nose? And so he was just trying to like show her, you know, here you are talking shit about Callie, but
what are you doing here? What is this?
What is that? Like, you know, and you know, up until that point, she didn't even really like him, but I think you could tell that she kind of softened a bit when she understood what he was saying and then gave him that puzzle piece, which now I'm like, did she really give him the puzzle piece? Or was that puzzle piece missing like
her
the
name
whole
was
time?
actually Sky?
That was my understanding.
At that point, she gave him a piece of herself.
Right. But like he used that puzzle piece to get out of the depths of his own mind.
Yeah.
And so instead of taking the puzzle piece and putting it back in the puzzle got broken down and put back in a box.
Yeah, after she was discharged.
Right. And so, but the way he explained, like he said, you know, why would anyone do that? The way he explained it made me feel like that puzzle had always been missing that piece. And there was a reason for that. Like if they can't ever complete the puzzle, it's almost like there's more, you know, like, I don't know if I'm explaining that properly. There's just more to do if you don't have that puzzle piece because you can't finish it. Because if you finish it and you're still in the hospital, I don't know. It's like, it's almost like hope. If that makes any sense.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but in the practical sense that whenever you put the puzzle all together and you realize that there's a piece missing, you still put all the pieces together. And I mean, unless you're going to spend the rest of your time at the hospital searching for that last piece, then it kind of doesn't make sense to me.
But it gives you purpose while you're still there. Is what
sure. I could. Sure. Okay.
I don't know. The way it was worded, it sounded like the puzzle had always been missing that piece.
Or more.
So, I mean, because what did he do with it after that?
You break it down and put it back and let somebody else work on it. What, with the one piece?
Yes. Hold on, I gotta get something off my screen.
What?
There was something on the screen that was bothering me.
Was it the puzzle piece?
No. No. It could have been, but it wasn't.
Okay.
I don't know if I fully understand that whole thing. Her giving him the puzzle piece. I understand like that being a piece of her. If her name was Sky and it was a blue piece of the sky. But I don't know why that was necessarily his way out.
It may not have been specifically a piece of her, but it was more of a sign of that she actually gave him a piece of something that she cared about. Because she spent her time with that puzzle every day.
Right, that's
of
what
her
she
time
did.
there.
I know.
So, but
it was also like a sign of forgiveness after he threw up on it.
I don't know what to say about the fact that he actually went from person to person and helped them with something they were dealing with while he was dealing with his own. Like when, like he made his step into the ship world pretty often, but then when he came back, it seemed like he was just helping other people out when he actually had a little piece of reality for himself.
Well, but it seems like I was saying, how he held a mirror up to Sky to show her, hey, you experienced similar things to Callie. I think that all the people he was there with did the same thing for him. So it kind of only makes sense that there was some reciprocation there. But it seemed like he was learning a lot about himself through, you know, what everybody else experienced. And they helped each other see that they weren't alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I can imagine in a situation like that, you almost feel like you can't trust anyone. And that was what the captain kept saying. You can't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what I asked you about?
Who he was going to kill?
What do you think? What do you think about what happened?
Well, I kind of had a feeling that he was, well, if the doctor was the parrot, then I assumed that he was the captain.
Who was the captain?
Caden.
Okay.
So the captain is like representative of his own mind and how he can get lost in there.
Okay. So he basically had to block the doctor out in order to take command of his own ship?
I think it was more... not necessarily like block the doctor out. I think he just needed to make the wrong decision to figure out what the right one was.
Okay.
Like kind of when we just made bad dietary decisions and then afterwards we're like, hey, let's never do that again. Just, he thought it was the right decision at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why he stopped taking his medication and he like, you know, because even the doctor said that. He was like, well, that's a good thing. He was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, you know, it was a good thing then. Now you know better. So then to stop taking your medication and trying to go all the way down.
With the doctor, he essentially rejected him because of the doctor's attitude toward Hal. It's like, oh, well, we can't save everybody. Well, it's like, well, you can't be like that. It was a little too nonchalant for him.
Yeah.
In a way.
Pretty sure that had more to do with that situation than...
Yeah, but he was already not trusting the parrot.
He didn't trust himself either.
But like putting that in a real world setting, it's just a really scary place, right? Because the people around you that care about you, whether they be the medical professionals or your family, they're going to do what is best for you in that moment, what's going to help you live on or move on or get better. And if you're in a mental place where you can't even understand that,
right,
like, that's just horrible from both ends. Like watching somebody you love think that you're doing something bad to them because they don't understand what's happening is just like, I can't even imagine. As a parent, I can't imagine what that's like.
The scene where they left him in the hospital, where they're like when they admitted him and he had that flip. He was like, "Oh my God, they're killing me! They're killing me!" You know, it was the exact. And what I saw from majority of the explanations of the things that he experienced at specific times, it was just a heightened form of anxiety or fear. Like it's
paranoia.
Just straight up, like not even I can see paranoia as like an understatement, or is it? Is paranoia that strong?
I would say paranoia is stronger than anxiety. So like, you know, anxiety is just like a little of discomfort, maybe questioning a lot of things, where paranoia is like, oh my God, this is what's happening. Like this is actually happening. Like more belief in it.
Okay. But it's scary.
It is scary.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what side of the coin you're on.
Mm-hmm.
He kept making references to the white plastic kitchen.
Yes.
And I feel like I may not have fully understood, because the way he described it, I was like, well, he's not having surgery. It almost sounded like he was in an operating room over and over again.
I thought it was a solitary confinement type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you gone too far, you did something bad or hurt somebody or you hurt yourself or somebody else, that you went into the white room with nothing in it. But I can't imagine it'd be called a kitchen.
What is your perception of that, Tom?
I thought that the thing that I remember comes like almost toward the end of the book, where he refers to the hospital itself as the white plastic kitchen.
Hmm.
It was at one point he was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Well, do you know what that means?" And he was like, "Yeah, that means you would take me to the white plastic kitchen." And then the guy chuckled, and then like they didn't know what that meant.
Hmm. I might have to reread that because I felt like it sounded like it was very specific and not just overall where he was.
No, I think it's a specific room.
Okay.
That nobody likes.
Right. I mean, like, it just, to me, it sounded like being in an operating room with the big white lights on you, and just like the whole room was kind of like lit up, but there wasn't anything that he would have been having surgery for, so I'll have to revisit that. What did you think about Caden's parents?
Well, they had to make some tough decisions regarding Caden's welfare, and to their credit, they came every day to see him. It sounded like,
right, even though he didn't realize that was happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though he was on the ship. So.
I think his parent. There's more to say about his perception of his parents versus what we get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because his descriptions of each encounter with them are different, and I don't know how to explain that. What we're dealing with here isn't about. There's nothing really concrete. All of like almost everything in this book is a perception. Is like what Caden would describe each of his experiences with us is still another perception, like his perception of how it was taken, and I guess it's up for us to decipher each one. But I can't say I spent the time to think about every interaction.
Well, because I mean, like, the parents themselves kind of have to go through their own journey, because they started off with maybe feeling like they had a somewhat eccentric kid, not realizing the degree to what was happening to him. Mm-hmm. And I think in the beginning you could tell that they were getting frustrated with his behavior and his actions and the things he was saying. And so there was a little bit of impatience in them. But I'm sure that kind of flips when you see...
I mean, that's a lack of understanding.
Right.
So when they finally understand what's going on, then he's explaining that now they have a better understanding. They're not getting sleep. They're puffy, they're red-eyed. They've been crying. They've been upset about this whole thing. And he doesn't understand why they're different. But again, it's a matter of him explaining his perceptions to us. But again, there's misunderstanding on both sides.
But it also goes to show you how people's experiences are so different, because Caden's parents were coming every day, and then meanwhile Hal's mom was like, I'm moving and getting married.
Yeah, see ya.
Well, they explained that she only visited once a month, if that.
I mean, that was just heartbreaking that he said, well, her fiance finds me off-putting. And I realize it's just a story, but I don't doubt that things like that actually happen. So that's just...
Well, you have the parents that care and want to help and want to fix, and then when you have the parents that kind of turn into denial and just oh, well, my son is in a mental institution, and kind of distance themselves from it, versus actually being a part of it and trying to make a difference. So that's upsetting. And it's not even a matter of them not caring, it's their emotional separation from the issue, period. They can't deal with it themselves, so they don't
Well, I'm sure their relationship beforehand has a lot to do with it too. But I don't know. I don't know if you read the author's note afterwards. You probably didn't because it wasn't in the audiobook.
Nope.
Tom, did you?
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. It's like only like a page and a half, but he starts, the author's just talking about, what his son went through and how challenging it was and some of the things that happened and how he tried to describe what the sensation of being on medication was. And like he mentions that part of that was from his own experience because he accidentally took 2 pills of his son's medication by accident thinking it was Excedrin.
Oops.
So he was like describing.
That's interesting. So at least he got a taste of what the medication was like.
I mean, but I would think.
Ooh.
I would think it would feel different in someone that has all the chemicals.
So, say you have this chemicals a little too high and it creates the distortion. So if you take the medication to bring that back down, and then the person who's sitting here takes that medication and throw it the opposite direction.
I mean, I don't know the science of that, but I'm sure it was that would freak me out.
Well, the implication is that when Caden is off his meds, he feels much more clarity, and his mind is more active. Whereas when he's on the medication, it feels more sluggish. But he's much more normal. He's on an even keel, shall we say?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think that's a complaint to anybody that's having to deal with medicating, is that you don't feel like your normal self. You everything is blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is that good to be normal? But
the question I thought of when I was reading it was that, like from Milton, it says, "Is it better to rule in hell or serve in heaven?" People have to make that choice.
I mean, just from the few times I've had to take anxiety medication, one of which was mentioned in there, was just the Ativan. They had to give me Ativan to actually get into the MRI. I mean, if I take a whole thing, it'll make me feel like very tired and sluggish, and probably like I can't even string thoughts together very well because it slows my thinking down so much. But at the right dosage, it just prevents my thoughts from racing.
Right.
So.
Which is why the cocktail is such a big deal.
Right.
Yeah. It has to be a perfect blend.
Balance all those medications and,
I like the fact that you brought up the MRI because she asked me later on, she goes, did you realize that early on that did you realize that when he was cleaning the cannon that's what they were doing to him, that he was in an MRI? I'm like, I didn't until after the fact. And that's also because I've never experienced an MRI like that. She has. So she's been in an MRI and she was like, oh, she probably that probably brought those back when she heard the clang clang boom boom boom.
As soon as he said rhythmic banging, I was like, he's in an MRI.
Yeah. And I didn't put it together until they stood to the doctor's bit and oh, your brain's just fine. I'm like, oh, he was in an MRI machine. And then they said it, but she's like, did you guess he was in an MRI? I was like, I mean, after the fact.
Those things are scary.
I just like that they took a pirate ship seafaring journey adventure, and then like every little aspect of it is a mirror image of something else in what was going on. That was perfect.
I feel like it would make a really good animated movie. Like I don't know if have you ever seen Waking Life? Maybe not as like scratchy as that, but like the type of animated movie where like the colors swirl and things just morph into other things. I think it would make an awesome adaptation. Have you seen Waking Life, Tom?
I have not.
I don't remember it, but I could have swore you had me watch it at one point.
Probably. It's pretty interesting. It like talks about lucid dreams and some other philosophical telepathic experiences, and they're kind of like mixed and woven in together, but it's a really good movie. So as far as I know, his son is now doing really well. I think it was really awesome of him to kind of put Carlisle's story in there, and having Carlisle say, like, I know what you've been through, and I've been there, and you know, I've moved past this, and I've still been able to have a healthy life and do things and make video games and whatever else Carlisle was doing.
Which is ironic because, you know, video games is all about constructing a world, and that's what Aiden's doing, you know, with his pirate ship. Mind is constructing this alternate reality for himself. And that's one of the things that's good to have the audiobook, is when he was talking about, like, there were actually monsters bearing people he knew whose faces. And then the narrator, when he would read their parts, would be like, "Ooh," like a monster would, and it really brought home the fact that he's hallucinating, but you know that's how he perceives the world. So, plus he didn't reveal who the captain actually was until the very end of the novel. Well, we knew who the captain was. It was just the appearance the captain took.
Right.
It's probably a better way to say it.
And who was the appearance the captain took?
From that guy, that homeless guy that they already saw in New York.
Oh, okay.
On their trip.
Oh, I think I broke it. I broke a thing. Are we still here? All right.
Oh, that was weird.
Yeah, I knocked out my second monitor.
Stop breaking stuff.
I don't know. Is there anything else? Do you want to just give, I guess, maybe final thoughts and ratings?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. You go first.
Why you keep? I'm just wondering why you keep looking at me and asking me questions. Is it because I'm sitting here?
Yes, because am I gonna look this way and ask you questions? Because that's kind of weird.
You're gonna ask Tom. Tom's right. Tom is right there.
I have been asking Tom questions.
But I mean, like, I feel like you're trying to direct it like it was my book.
No, it's my book.
It's your book.
It was my book.
So you're asking me for my final thoughts and ratings?
Yes, because it was my book, so I say them last.
5 out of 5 stars for me. I really enjoy, and she brought up Patient HM before, but I think that it went to give a perspective into what these anybody with mental illnesses or other just medical things. I'm kind of intrigued by it, and I like the idea of stepping into those types of worlds and books and things. It's just to give a better idea of perspective on the crap other people have been through. I definitely enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed how everything is tied together. And literally, if you put everything up on a board and laid the two realities side by side, you can thread so much together. It's insane. I did have a question about the black gunk that was holding everything together. Did anybody figure out what that was?
I don't even remember that reference.
Oh, it was throughout the book.
It was like 3 or 4 times he mentioned the black wavy oozy stuff that was between the boards and the slats of the ship and other stuff that was basically holding everything together. I'll have to look into that again.
I mean, like all the reference, like the entire time he was talking about the ship and things that were happening on the ship, and occasionally he would think of something and then it would appear, right? Like you could tell he was kind of fabricating. It felt very much like a dream, especially like
I didn't even know a plank existed. Oh, there it is.
A lucid dream where you have control of it and things shift and morph and appear as your mind, as you bring them to like your conscious mind.
Yeah, but I
don't
think the point of that was he did not have control. That's why he wasn't the captain.
No, it was that it seemed more like that he wasn't aware he had any control. Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, I agree. You're right, but I just didn't know what that had to do with the black gunk. I wanted to know what that was supposed to be holding everything together, how they explain that. So I'll have to look into that. But again, my final thought on the thing is it's just I absolutely enjoyed everything that tied together, callbacks, just puzzle pieces, the hooks, everything where everything worked and fit perfectly. Like it was orchestrated really well.
Tom, your final thoughts?
One of the things I liked about the book was that how it explained his inner state and being on the ship. But I would have liked to have seen at least one episode where he was in that state, but they showed the external, like how he was reacting to the physical world.
Agreed.
Yeah, just once, like maybe right at the end of the book, and then I don't know how that would work out, but I think that would be interesting. One book and one movie came to mind while I was reading this strongly. The book is The Hunting of the Snark by Lewis Carroll, which describes a voyage in which the crew hunt the snark and what transpires. But it reads a lot like it's almost like the same vibe as the maritime sequences in this book. And the other one, this is one of my favorite movies, is The Fisher King. So, describing how Robin Williams' character arc in the movie, it's like how he sees things and that nobody else sees because of his mental state.
And throughout his, I love Robin Williams wholeheartedly, like everything he's done, and I haven't seen everything, but I know that The Fisher King was a landmark or let's say a benchmark for him.
Yes,
because of how much stuff that he went through in his life, and he really enjoyed making that movie and helping other people see a little bit clearer into the shit that he was going through.
Are we giving ratings or not yet?
Yes. John said he gave it 5 stars.
I gave it 4, so I liked it as well.
I
didn't think about it.
Like no, I did. I did. I think I gave
a number between 1 and 5. No.
I gave it a 4 also.
Yeah.
I was a little hesitant reading this because I knew the topic was just very personal and very specific, and I was worried that it would be very, very different than his other works, which I have a bunch of. So I was like, I'm going to read this and then not want to read the other books or anything. But I'm glad that I enjoyed it enough that I'm very eager to jump into Scythe and to jump into Unwind and to jump into...
As you can see how eager I was to jump into Scythe. I'm already halfway through it.
Yeah.
Oh, alrighty then.
So it's good.
I'm enjoying it. Again, there's more... There's a few... references in it, and I think I'm going to enjoy this a little bit more because it's, I guess maybe the fiction, the post-apocalyptic, I like post-apocalyptic things apparently. I didn't realize that until quite recently, that I'm like, well, all these things that I like are the world's messed up and screwed up, and yeah.
Then you should read the Silo Saga by Hugh Howey if you haven't already.
No, I have not.
That's really good.
I may have that.
I do.
Yeah.
Is that in
That's like
audio form?
Wool and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Wool, like Silo and something else. Anyway.
That just made me think that I think there was also like a Giver reference in there.
And where?
In Challenger Deep.
There was.
Yeah. Or he was talking about stirrings. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I mean, if that was considered a Giver reference, it may not have been.
I mean, it felt like one.
It could very well have been one. What's
So I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was very creative. And I'm just wondering how younger audiences feel about it. Like if there's going to be somebody that's like, I don't get this. This makes no sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't go back and look at other people's reviews, but I think I'm going to after this.
A couple of points come to mind. I think he actually references the artist Hieronymus Bosch in the novel. But it's interesting to me that Caden is, his name is Spirit of Battle, which is what
Bosch.
he's going to. And then Bosch is noted for these surrealistic paintings, like these really weird shit.
No, I think that was definitely intended because.
Oh yeah.
These pictures are kind of.
I mean, some of them just look like they were duplicated on top of each other.
Well, that was just abstract, but this one has something in it. How well can we see this?
Yeah, I can.
And then there's actually another one here there's one of the deep sea worm, and then there's one of the two the Nemesis fighting.
I was actually expecting the homeless guy to be the artist that they referenced.
On that one, you can actually see the squid and the whale.
Right. And some of them, it looks like Desirai said, the one was overlaid over the other, and you could think that, well, that's the physical world being overlaid by his mental world, his mental landscape.
Very nice.
But one of the takeaway messages for me from the book was when, almost right at the end, where he spies the captain in the ship at the dock. As we'll always be here,
Yep.
You're not getting
ready for another adventure.
Adventure, yeah.
And he's like, no,
not today.
No, not today, Satan.
Yeah, not today. So he wasn't cured. It's just that there's a sort of like a détente here.
And it's interesting how they depicted it. It was the first hand, it was an old ratty pirate ship. The second one, it was a yacht filled with bikini-clad women.
Yeah.
Why?
Because probably
something a little more tempting after puberty.
Well, just a little more tempting in general. Yeah.
Well, that was the temptation of the treasure. That's and he found out that wasn't all it was cracked up to be. So he had to find something else to lure him in for another adventure. So that's apparently what he came up with.
So yay, Challenger Deep.
So what's next?
So next,
we're still on a Shusterman kick.
Yeah. We have
Out with the old and in with the new.
By Neal Shusterman.
Is that an award sticker?
Yes, it got the Prince Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature.
Okay, cool.
And I know you wanted to read God's Grave, but I thought you would still also enjoy this because of the.
Well, I like the author, so I'm not as concerned. It was more my wanting to read God's Grave rather than not wanting to read that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get it because I wanted to read God. Yeah. I'm gonna put it back in my next selection. Don't worry.
Yeah. Make all three books the same book.
It's gonna show up again until we read it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thought it was just.
We read another book with a scythe in it.
Yes. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I thought we just read a book about a Reaper, and it sounded like Tom likes that. So here's some more Reaper stuff.
He likes scythes. Yeah.
I really hope you enjoy this because I'm curious to.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
Pull out of it. It's. Should I give the premise?
Yeah, you can give the premise. Absolutely.
Okay, so the world is done with death and disease, and they figured out ways to basically be immortal. And in order to curb human population, there's a society of reapers. I mean, they're called scythes that are given the task to end life. They specifically have to choose who dies, and they have a quota to meet in order to keep population. I mean, they at the beginning they're explaining that there aren't enough scythes to curb at the rate that population is still growing. But I'm curious to where they go with that, because like so far it's just there's a lot of emotional stuff to it, but there's it's more or less a it's picking who's going to be the next scythe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very. I'm interested to see where it goes. It's not like enthralled. It's not. I'm not like glued to it right now, but like there's enough information to keep you. Well, what's going to happen next?
Right.
Where's this going to go?
Well, Desirai knows this, but I don't know. Not sure if you know this, John. I finished Death #2 in Discworld, the Reaper Man book, novel Reaper Man. So it ties into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we still have to check those other ones out.
With the introduction to Mort and the Discworld series, I realized that our Audible book collection, or like how many, like in order to collect all of those in Audible, I get 1 credit a month, and we have to use that for other things.
Yeah.
So I have to be very, very careful of what Discworld books I pick.
Absolutely.
We'll figure it out.
I'm sure we will. With your 1,500 book collection.
But not that we're counting. Not that we're counting. Is this the unsaid part of that? Oh wait, we just did.
2019 is almost here.
I know.
And things are going to be different.
And with her 2019 book buying ban, what did you just do?
It's not 2019 yet.
I know.
But what did you just do?
Yes, I did.
How many more books did you buy?
It was.
I think we're over 1,600 now.
It was.
Wow.
It was.
You said you were going to do this, Desiree, just to remind you on that one podcast that you did. Video that you did.
Yes. I was on Twitter and a friend was like, ready to start those 2019 goals. Started off by buying a book haul because they had a bunch of things on sale. Like, Book Outlet already has cheap books, and then they had stuff 40% off on top of that. And
when books are $2 to $3 each, it's
that reminds me of one of my favorite chapters in the book that we just read, the Shusterman book, when he talks about how he had all these songs and he'll never get to listen to all of them. This
yes.
Yes.
The eternal playlist.
Yes.
Yeah, I was reading that and thinking of that.
So that's one of my favorite chapters in the book, actually.
So yeah, I bought 28 books.
Wow. That's almost like a year's reading right there.
Oh, it's a little over half a year.
I'm trying to rush Scythe in the next 2 days so I can meet my 24 book reading challenge, and she just bought more than that.
Well, I read 52 books this year. Now I just have to stop getting them from the library.
Yes.
And reading the ones that I have.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
2019 is going to be better. It is. And then John promised to work on my little free library so I could put it outside.
That's right.
And that she can usher some books out the door when she's done.
And I've read them, and they're like a 3.
Yes. Not heel haul them.
No, we can actually call it that. That's fine. I'm okay with that. And we actually need to. I think we need to unhaul whenever you finish a decent amount of books. Actually, have a video of you putting them in your little free library.
Okay.
Hopefully.
And put the security camera on so you see her at night going back.
Late at night, she's pulling them back out.
Yeah, that is.
Oh, I don't know. They did. They disappeared last night.
Somebody must have borrowed them. Yeah, it's a free library.
I spent the last couple of days actually organizing the books on my shelf and because they were in stacks on the dresser, and I was able to put them on the shelf. But I'm very clearly running out of space.
Very clearly.
So So that was the last haul. That was it.
Yeah, done.
Yes.
Until next year.
I'm giving myself rules. I'm making those rules tonight. That's what I'm gonna do.
Well, at least we could say that if she orders any more books online, she won't get them until next year. So she can no longer order more books this year.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. So, as a reminder, we do read a different book every month. Next month, we're reading Scythe by Neal Shusterman. If you've been wanting to check it out, please go ahead, pick it up so you can read it with us, and you can join the discussion in the chat. If you'd like to join us on screen, you can do that by signing up to become a book club VIP at patreon.com/Libri Labra. And there are a few other different perks. You can help me pick books to review that you'd like me to read or hate read or whatever. You get a custom bookmark, and you get to be part of an exclusive community. So hope you guys will stick around and pick up the next book, and we'll see you next month.
See you next year.
All right.
Thanks for watching.
All right. Bye.